can see the slide. And before we proceed further, I would like to have a quick recap. We discuss the relationship between language and communication, and as functionalists, they view that language is a tool for communication. Otherwise, we have seen Ferdinand de Saussure's view that language is a set of signs or signals by which we communicate. And we have also seen how these signs they interact with each other through semantic relationships of syntagmatic and paradigmatic types. We have also seen that other species, they are also able to communicate. We have seen the example of honeybee, chimpanzees, dolphins. So in a sense, there is no difference between human communication and animal communication. But the difference is certainly of in degree that we find in human and animal communication. Because human communication is flexible, complex, and we can communicate anything through language with precision, and lots of creativity and productivity is also involved in human communication with language that is not possible in animal communication. Then there are certain fallacies in the mind of laymen. And what are those fallacies? They think that they are parrots, they can speak. They think that their dogs, their pets, they understand them. So certain gestures your dog can understand. Certain phrases or sentences a parrot can mimic or say. But it is not the case that parrot can use language as you use. So there is the possibility that 50 sentences related to certain context a parrot can use, remember, and mimic. So there is a difference between using a language and mimicking a language. So when you mimic, then you can only utter certain dialogues, certain utterances, but you can't use freely with fluency language with creativity and with productivity. So this is a limitation with animals, that they can't speak, because the most important organ for speaking is the vocal cord, and this larynx, this vocal cord, only human beings they have. And moreover, our brain is larger in proportion to our body. When there is a proportion between body and the size of the brain, then the human brain is the largest among all the species that are there in this world. Now, the most important thing about language, uh, posited by Charles Hockett in 1958, and we will discuss those design features. And Charles Hockett posited these things in his book titled A Course in Modern Linguistics. So when we talk about design features, it sounds like something very scientific, or something that is related to some model. But actually, design features, they are characteristics of human language, and they are not only characteristics, but they also make a difference between human communication and animal communication. So we know that when we communicate, then semanticity is involved. Now, what is semanticity? Semanticity, this word has been derived from the word semantics, and semantics is the scientific study of meaning. When I utter something, if it is not meaningful, then that utterance is not valid in communication. So when I say something, it must convey some meaning, and that meaningfulness is associated with semanticity. And that semanticity is the quality that a linguistic system has for being able to convey meaning. So all of us, we have this semanticity. When we say something, other person understands it. And this is actually the essence of language, that when you say something, you want to convey something, whether it's an information or request or reprimand, or you show anger, your feelings, whatever it is, but semanticity is always involved. Otherwise, when I speak, I'm actually producing sounds. I'm producing sounds and you are hearing those sounds. But your mind is able to distinguish individual sounds units. You can find out when these sounds units they combine, what are the words I am speaking, what are the phrases, sentences I am speaking. So your mind, it works very fast, and mm, in a second you understand that my sound patterns, how they are meshed with specific meanings. So the words that I speak, they have meanings. The phrases made of those words, they have some meaning. The clauses and sentences and other utterances I am making, they have some meaning. So though I am producing sound patterns, I am producing these sounds, but you are getting specific meanings. So this is the concept of semanticity, uh, posited by Charles Hockett. And this is like a match, one-to-one match between sound patterns, and those sound patterns, they are meshed with specific meaning. So this is one concept by Charles Hockett. Then another concept is arbitrariness. The meaning of arbitrariness is that there is no logical connection between the sound I make and the concept those sounds generate in your mind, or the sounds I make and the meaning you are getting out of those sounds. So for example, there is a word in English like dog. Now dog is one sound that I am making. You can further divide the sound in dog, that is the initial sound, or the middle sound, and g is the final sound. And very quickly, when you combine these three sounds, then you have a word dog. So these three sounds, they have nothing to the quality of a dog or a figure of a dog or dog as an animal. But there is an agreement. There is an agreement in society, there is an agreement among speakers, that when these three sounds, da or ga, in this pattern, when these three sounds are spoken, then everyone will think of an animal, whether in the form of an image, or in the form of actual dog, that if you have, or any type of any variety of dog, you have different varieties of dog, different types of dog, so you will think of that. But if you think of these three sounds only, and when you think of the figure of the dog, then you will find there is no match, because this dog, you use three letters like D, O, and G. These are the letters you use, and these letters are not similar to the shape of the dog. So when I say dog, then this dog, my saying, or if you find something written like dog, then that saying or written is actually your signifier, and the signified is the image. So you think of an image of a dog. So here we have an image of a dog. So it is not the case that you all think of the same image. There is a possibility that you think of your pet dog, let's say if it is a Labrador, Pomeranian, Bulldog, fine. So you can think of any dog, a street dog. So there are various feelings which are associated with dog. Some people, they like dog, so they feel like cuddling a dog, fine. And some people, they have bad experience with dog, so they might feel with fear. So these are the various things that are associated with these three sounds, d, o, g. So this is arbitrariness. There is no logical connection between the image and the sound. And it is not the case that the entire world understands the concept of dog with these three letters. For example, uh, in Hindi we have the word like kutta. Now, when I say kutta, the same type of concept will come in your mind. You think of a street dog, you think of your pet dog, you think of a dog in an advertisement, or any type of dog, or associated feelings which are associated with the word that you can think of. Similarly, in German, it is Hund. So, in different languages, you have different signifiers. So in English, the signifier is dog. In Hindi, the signifier is kutta. In German, the signifier is Hund. But signified is more or less same. So you think of an image of a dog, qualities of a dog. Fine, you might think of faithfulness because a dog is a faithful animal. So you think of faithfulness, and generally, dog is also used as a metaphor for faithfulness in different examples. So all such things you can think of, but if you try to generate one-to-one connection between what is said or what is written and what the concept is generated through it, then there is no match. So this mismatch, no logical connection, is known as arbitrariness. So what Saussure says that the relationship between signifier and signified is arbitrary. So most of the words, they do not have any one-to-one connection between the sound, between the written and the concept it generates. This relationship is known as arbitrariness, and Hockett also talks about this arbitrariness. Then we have next design feature of language is discreteness. And what is discreteness? So when I say dog, then as I said that the word dog has three letters, D, O, G. The letter D corresponds to the sound D, letter O corresponds to the sound O, and letter G corresponds to the sound G. So D, O, G. Now these are sounds in the slanted bars. So you can see here, these are actually sounds that you have, D, O, G. So if you try to find out how this word is generated, then you will say there are three letters, but you will also say there are three sounds. So messages that we make, they are made of smaller repeatable parts rather than individual sound units. So it's like there is a possibility that when I say date, D-A-T-E, then again I am using the sound. If I say God, then again I am using these three sounds, but the arrangement is different. So repeatable parts, these sounds, they can be repeated, and we can make different words, different sounds, and convey different messages. For example, if I take only two sounds from these three sounds, like do, then we know do is a verb. And we generally use like in a messages, how do you do? What do you do? We can also make a word like go, go. We also know go is a verb. So these type of things, that certain sounds, a message is made up of smaller units, and they are repeatable. They can be repeated. So there is the possibility that if there is a complex word like impossibility, so impossibility, if you pronounce this word very slowly, then you will find that this E vowel is repeated many times in this word, impossibility. So E, so many times you are repeating. So this is known as discreteness. So a word can be broken down into units of sounds. Fine. So in English we have 44 sounds, and when we say 44 sounds, we are not talking about letters, because in English we have only 26 letters starting from A and ending with Z, also known as Z. These 26 letters, but sounds are more. Sounds are 44. And these sounds include all the consonants in the English language and all the vowels in the English language. When we will study phonetics and phonology, in the last class we started it, and when we go further, then I will tell you which are those consonants and vowel sounds. So this is another concept known as discreteness given by Charles Hockett. Another design feature of language is displacement. Now, what is the meaning of displacement? You already know the term place. But here you have placement. You also know placement, because generally we use this word placement with when a company comes and recruit certain candidates for the future job. But here it is displacements. That means this here means beyond time and beyond space. That is the meaning of displacement. So animals generally, when they communicate, then they do not have this facility of displacements. For example, a dog cannot tell you that what it will do next year. Dog cannot tell you. Dog even cannot tell you that what it will do after 7 days. But you can tell, you can plan for your entire life. You do not know what is going to happen in your life, but you can plan. You can write it down, what I will do. You can make a timetable what you will do, and you can plan accordingly. For example, this class starts at 10 a.m. Now this is for the entire semester we have planned. So what is this? This is beyond time, but we are following this. Similarly, beyond space. Now you can think of a vacation you spent very comfortably last year. So that is again beyond space. You can think of things which are not here. You can think of America. You can think of a place you visited or you want to visit. So there is a possibility that many of you will plan that, okay, I will try for some job in a foreign country. So that is what you are doing. You are thinking beyond space. And how you are able to think beyond space? Because of language. Because you can tell me your future plans. And how you are able to tell me your future plans? Because you have this facility, language. Animals, they can't plan like this. Their communication is face to face or very immediate. So if a dog is barking, then it's not the case that dog is telling you or other people about its future plan. It's not the case. Dog is barking because dog is seeing some danger. Dog is seeing some other animal. Dog is informing you that there is some problem, or like there is some rivalry in the group of dogs. So that type of thing is there. Their communication is immediate, on spot, face to face. Our communication is beyond time, beyond space. We can also talk face to face, but at the same time we can think about future, we can think about past. So most of the time, daydreaming, there is a word like daydreaming. Now what is daydreaming? You are thinking about something in future that is going to happen in future, and you think about that, okay, if I do like this, then I will become like this, then I will visit like this, then I will talk like this. So most of the time displacement is a great facility for us. And why displacement happens? Because of the language, because we have this gift of language. So the bottom line is, you can think about past and future, and you talk about here and elsewhere. This is basically known as displacement. Then another design feature given by Charles Hockett is productivity. Now, language users can understand and create never before heard utterances. In the last class, I gave you one example. I saw a dinosaur in my garage. Now, I saw a dinosaur in my garage. There is a possibility, or if I say I saw a platypus in my garage. So there is a possibility that many of you are hearing this word platypus first time in your life. So this will be a novel sentence for you. You have never heard such type of sentence in your life. But how am I possible? It becomes possible for me to utter these type of utterances? You can also utter with your limited vocabulary such type of sentences. But how is it possible? Because we have this gift of language. And when we have this gift of language, then we can create never before heard utterances. So there is a poet like Robert Burns. Now, Robert Burns says, "My love is like a red, red rose." Now, if you do not know Robert Burns, or if you have not read this poem previously, then "My love is like a red, red rose" is a novel utterance for you. Then you might also question that why red, red is repeated twice. For example, Alexander Pope, another poet, says in his ode to solitude that happy the man whose wish and care a few paternal acres bound, content to breathe its native air in his own ground. Now, there is a possibility that you are hearing this poem first time and you will find it quite novel. And no one has written like this except Alexander Pope. Or Shakespeare says, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer lease hath all too short a date." So, what is this? All the poets, when they write a poem, because I myself is also a poet. So when I write a poem, then it is not the case that I am copying some others writers and then writing it. It is an act of productivity. And how I am able to do that? If I write an academic article, if I write a short story, then how I am possible to do that? Because of language, because language assists me, and language gives me this power to produce never before heard utterances. Now, this is not the case that only mature people can produce, or only mature people they have this facility of productivity. Because I remember when I was a kid, then I, along with my other kid friends, we developed we developed a secret language. And there is a word ludling for secret language. So ludling is a terminology. Ludling is a jargon, linguistic jargon, a technical term. The meaning of ludling is secret language. And how we develop the secret language, you might have also developed some secret language talking among your peers or your brothers and sisters or among your friends. So we used to make this deviation for each word. So if the word is badshah, we will say it banchadsha. Fine. So this nasal sound na and this extra cha sound, and we are copying the vowel a of Badsha and we are adding it in between. So it becomes like Banjadsha. So for every word, like we are adding this type of thing. So what is this actually? This is again an act of productivity. So sometimes a kid utters a funny word, a very funny word that is not the part of language, and amuses herself or himself. So and repeating again and again, and laughing on that. And sometimes like adults, they feel quite odd about it, that what this nonsense word this child is speaking. There is no meaning of this. There is no meaningful utterance. So what is this? Even the nonsense word uttered by a kid is also an act of productivity. The next design feature is duality. Duality, the meaning of duality is like recycling. Now this sign is quite famous for recycling. Generally when you buy a product, then you will find this sign. This sign means that the empty container of that particular product will be recycled. So duality of patterning, recycling of patterning. As I said that if there are three sounds in a word, then it is not the case that these sounds are only dedicated to that particular word. I can use the same sound for different words. A large number of meaningful utterances can be made from a small number of discrete parts of language. So in a way, discreteness and duality of patterning, that is associated. So when I say dog, then there is one word. I can rearrange the sounds. I can say God, I can say go, I can say do. So similarly, in English language, we have lots of suffixes, prefixes as well. And when we attach these suffixes to root, to different roots, then we have different words. So we have one such suffix like ness. And when we attach this word ness with happy, then we have happiness as a noun. Happy is an adjective, and when we attach ness, then it becomes noun, happiness. Good is an adjective. When we attach ness, then again we have goodness as a noun. Kind is an adjective, and when we attach ness, then we have kindness as a noun. So this facility is very much there with us in language. Similarly, it's not only with suffixes, not only with sounds, but words can be combined to create novel sentences as well. So same words we are using in these two sentences. One is John loves Mary. It has one meaning. But when we say Mary loves John, it has different meaning. If you count the words, there are three words. If you know like which type of words are there, then the same words are there. But what is the difference? The difference is of the sequence. We are changing the sequence, and when we change the sequence, the meaning is also changed. So words can be combined to create novel sentences as well. This facility that language provides us is known as duality of patterning. So I stop here, and if you have any doubt what we have discussed today, then you can ask me.